Good morning, I'm Gretchen Hall. It is a Wednesday, 6th day of August, bringing you Morning Matters because your morning's matters get to the stories that matter today. Former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV claims Vice President Sara Duterte and former VP Duterte-Robredo are friends and political allies. Trillanes believes this is why Robredo has remained silent on both the Vice President's impeachment and the ICC arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Metro Manila Council President Francis Zamora backs the parking ban concept but rejects the idea of a total ban. He argues that it is not viable or practical policy. And how do we protect the people's interest from corruption and kickbacks? We'll be talking about the importance of good governance with Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong later in the program. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, the Supreme Court has given Vice President Sara Duterte's camp 10 days to respond to the House's appeal on her impeachment case. Here is a report.
Earlier this week, the House of Representatives appealed the Supreme Court's decision, declaring the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte unconstitutional. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court responded, directing the Vice President's camp to comment on the appeal. The High Court also noted the motion for reconsideration filed by Representative Percy Sandanya and others, pending its action on their motion for intervention. But the Supreme Court has yet to issue a ruling on that motion. Coinciding with this, various groups gathered outside the Supreme Court to demand that the impeachment process against VP Sara be pursued. According to Kiko Aquino D. of Tindig Pilipinas and nephew of former President Noynoy Aquino, failing to hold leaders accountable sets a dangerous precedent.
Dapat talaga magkaroon ng pananagutan. Hindi pwedeng mawala yung proseso ng impeachment. Otherwise, maulit po yung nangyari nung panahon ng diktadura na yung mga matataas na opisyal, wala talagang salbabida yung taong bayan kung sila yung mga abuso.
The Isang Bayan Coalition, composed of retired Supreme Court justices, legal experts, and religious and democratic groups, also filed a consolidated motion for reconsideration and intervention. Their appeal for the High Court is to issue a status quo ante-order, preventing the Senate from acting on or dismissing the impeachment complaint.
Nakakatawa sa Senado. Noong February 5, ang utos ng Constitution, forthwith. Pero inabot sila ng ilang buwan. Ngayon, wala namang sinasabing forthwith. Ang sinasabi lang, meron desisyon na for execution, pero do they execute immediately? Nasa sa kanila po yun. Kaya nga sinasabi natin, bakit naman mag-execute sila kaagad? Meron pa namang motion for recon. Meron pa namang puwang. Ang ika nga nito, hindi pa ho final ang kaso.
The Philippines and India signed 13 bilateral agreements following a meeting between President Bongbong Marcos and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. 4 of the agreements focus on military cooperation, including structured talks between the armed forces and enhanced maritime coordination. President Marcos said the deals support the Philippines' defense modernization and praised India's role, especially through the BrahMos missile project. Both countries also agreed to boost military ties through intelligence sharing, joint training, and regular service-to-service talks. Meanwhile, India expressed support for the peaceful resolution of the West Philippine Sea dispute, backing the 2016 arbitral ruling and adherence to international law. India has now become the Philippines' 5th official strategic partner, following the signing of a strategic partnership declaration and a plan of action covering 2025 to 2029. Metro Manila Council President and San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora clarifies they support the no street parking policy, just not a total ban. Zamora explained that while major roads and mabuhay lanes should be cleared, inner roads may need exceptions. He added that each LGU will soon submit a list of streets where parking should be prohibited and where it might still be allowed.
Sa mga inner roads, baka pwede hong mabigyan ng konsiderasyon. Sapagkat kung total ban po, Cheryl, ang tanong ko, saan po natin napaparada ng ating mga sasakyan? We have to also face certain realities. Nandiyan na po ang lahat ng mga sasakyan niya, no? Nabili na yan ng mga may-ari. Saan natin sila ililipat kung sakaling total ban nga po ang isasagawa? We will make decisions based on what is good for the majority.
And to further discuss the proposed ban on street parking, we are joined this morning by San Juan City Mayor and Metro Manila Council President, re-elected President Francis Zamora. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Yes, magandang question and thank you for having me on your program.
Okay, during the Metro Manila Council meeting last Friday, DILG Secretary Remulla said the Metro Manila Mayor should come up with a unified parking scheme by September 1, and citing the challenges that you mentioned po, no, yung feasibility of a total ban, what way forward do you see?
Gretchen, for me, the most feasible way forward would be to craft a customized approach. Because, again, we cannot have one sweeping policy across all 17 LGUs because our demographics are different. For instance, there are cities that are highly commercialized. They have a lot of central business districts, so the approach may be different. There are some cities that are industrial in nature, so the approach may be different. For instance, as in San Juan, we are heavily residential with major commercial areas, so the approach may be different. So, again, let me reiterate that we fully support the call of the LG Secretary John Remulla to ban street parking. Yes, we agree that we should ban street parking. However, we should also consider allowing street parking during certain times of the day in roads which are not considered major thoroughfares, in roads which are not considered mabuhay lanes. Because even if we allow, for instance, one-side parking in these streets, they don't exactly impede the traffic flow, and it is the mayors that know exactly what these streets are. That is why during the meeting, Secretary Remulla asked us basically to give our sentiments regarding the initial proposal, and all of the mayors cited the individual situation in our LGUs. So that is the most feasible way to move forward, as I see it. That each LGU needs to submit their proposed as to where parking should be and should not be allowed. And this will be evaluated by a technical working group composed of the Metro Manila Council, the MMDA, and the DALG. And let us see upon their evaluation if they will approve our suggestions.
Pero non-negotiable po, yung tama, agree po kayo kay MMD Chairman Artes na non-negotiable itong major thoroughfares, pati na rin yung mga mabuhay lanes na have been mapped out.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, agree po tayo dyan, Gretchen. In fact, ngayon naman talaga, even without any change in policy, ganyan na talaga dapat. Dapat talaga enforced ng mabuti ang ating mga current parking and traffic rules and regulations. Ang pinag-uusapan lang natin dito, yung inner roads. Dapat talaga walang nakaparada sa major thoroughfares sa ating mabuhay lanes at all times. Dapat stricto tayo at consistent sa pag-uhuli, sa pagtutow, pagkaklamp, paninikit. At yung ibang mga inner roads naman po, yan, covered yan ng local ordinances. Gretchen, for instance, in San Juan, we have local ordinances that allow parking in the inner roads as determined by our barangay officials.
What kind of customization in terms of approach are you seeing in your own city? Kasi meron din pong proposal na hindi total ban pero oras-oras na lang, no? So meron po yung from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. na pagbabawalan nitong parking, at meron din proposal na day long naman, 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. For your city, what kind of customized approach do you see being a heavily residential and commercial area?
Yung certain times of the day na pwede at hindi pwede mag-park, I agree. Because not all times ang mga roads natin ay talagang dinadaanan ng napakaraming sasakyan. So again, when I say customization, what I basically mean is depending on the needs of the individual LGUs. Kasi yung oras na bilis ang traffic flow sa San Juan, maring iba sa oras sa Makati or sa Taguig, given na sila heavy ang business districts po nila, no, compared to us. Yun ang ibig ko sabihin. And I will leave it to the other mayors to determine yung mga kakilala mga lungsod. For instance, kami po sa San Juan, meron tayong Green Hill Shopping Center. Diyan, totally bawal po ang pag-park sa mga mabuhay lanes. In fact, Gretchen, if I may share, since 2019 when I first became mayor of San Juan, binawal ko na ang lahat ng street pay parking all over the city. Even in Ica, even in Xavier, bawal na yan since 2019. So we've been strict in the implementation of this. So yung mga ganitong approach ang pwedeng gawin ng mga cities, again, depending on their demographics. Sila lang po makakasagot yan kasi mas alam po ng mga mayors yung mga kanya-kanyang LGUs po nila. That's why, yun pa namin with Secretary Rimulya, and I thank him because nick po siya sa amin, mga mayors, being a governor, he understands how it is to be the head of a local government unit. So yung pong suggestions na isasabit po namin sa kanila for the evaluation of the technical working group po.
Pero syempre in-invoke nga po nila itong ay yung Republic Act 4136 na has prohibited public parking or prohibited parking on public streets. So technically po hindi po talaga siya pwede, no, pero na override lang po. Do you have local ordinances, I mean, on that, on the parking in your city? At saan po kaya nakikita ninyo na medyo mahirap mag-implement ng ban in San Juan?
Meron tayong local ordinances covering all of these, Gretchen. No? At again, yung reality on the ground po ang talagang dapat maintindihan natin. No? Kasi, again, we do not live in a perfect world, Gretchen. No? Ang sarap pakinggan na, sige, bawal ang parking sa
Katulad sa ibang bansa. Oo.
Pero ang tanong, saan tayo paparada? For instance, Gretchen, when you went to work today, diba, buti na lang may parking facility kayo sa studio ninyo. Paano kung yung papasukan ninyo ay walang facility? Saan nyo paparada yan? Diba? I mean, kumbaga, yun yung realities on the ground, and that's what we face as mayors. No? So, all of these have to be considered, Gretchen. Again, whatever decision we will make, we will always consider everything. We will consider what is good for the majority. Kasi kahit ano naman po ang maging decision natin, meron at merong mag-oppose somehow because you cannot really please everyone. But we really have to look after what is good for majority.
Mayor, dahil pag-uusapan na rin po natin yung kalsada, na been curious because we went to San Juan before to institute the bike lanes, right? Kamusta naman po yung,
yes,
yung mga bike
yes.
lanes ng San Juan? Ano po mga findings po ninyo? Parang yung ibang mga kalsada wala na yung bike lanes, ano?
Okay, Gretchen, ganito ang ginawa po natin. And again, thank you for being with us then. I remember that day. Ang ating mga bike lanes po ay active pa lahat. In fact, we are now installing illuminated cat's eyes, no? Yung ating mga markers talaga for the bike lanes. Tinanggal lang natin yung bollards along Ortigas Avenue and pinaglabanan because when we installed the bollards, that was during the time of the pandemic, wherein public transport was limited, yung iba hindi lumalabas ng bahay. So, hindi pa ganun ka-normalize yung volume ng traffic. But when, COVID ended and we went back to normalcy, nung bumalik na yung usual traffic volume, hindi na naging feasible yung natin. However, all of the bike lanes are still active. In fact, like what I mentioned, we are installing now citywide cat's eyes to really define yung ating bike lanes. So, we still, of course, promote transportation, yung ating...
In a different way.
Tuloy-tuloy lang, except that the bollards really, kasi yung third lane na ng Ortigas Avenue namin ay hindi na talaga nagagamit. And just imagine kapag pasukan at uwian na ng Xavier and Ica, no? Hirap talaga yung situation. So, we have to adjust to the situation given to us to the best possible way. And talaga, again, there are realities that we have to face, Gretchen. Hindi tayo namumuhay sa isang perfectong mundo. So, kinakailangan natin mag-adjust sa mga sitwasyon na ibigay po sa atin.
Mayor, dahil minsan lang po namin kayo makakausap, just gusto ko lang isingit itong isa pang subject tungkol sa flood control. Si Congressman Erice has called or has proposed that Metro Manila have its own governor again like before dun sa Metro Manila Commission. Kayo po ay kapananalo lang po ng Metro Manila Council President. At ang sabi po niya, kailangan daw ng governor, katulad na lang sa ibang rehiyon, para magkaroon ng uniform laws across NCR. Because sa ngayon, nagkakalituhan dahil iba-iba nga po yung mga ordinance, pati na lang din yung patakaran. Pag tinignan niyo po yung number coding, dun pa lang medyo nakakalito na. At pangalawa, we also had an urban planner here from the Metro Manila Commission. At sabi po niya, yun po yung nagiging punot dulo nung delay ng mga flood control projects kasi ang hirap to get all the mayors together to agree. At usually nga parang the focus of a mayor would be the constituency. So what are your thoughts on that? And do you agree that it makes it difficult to make decisions?
Well, right now the setup really is we do not have a governor. That's correct. Compared to other regions in the country, ang Metro Manila lamang ang unang governor, although meron na tayo at meron tayong Metro Manila Council. So just to define, the Metro Manila Council is the policy-making body of the MMDA. So kung ano man ang mga gagawin ng MMDA, kinakailangan ipasaya ng Metro Manila Council composed of the Metro Manila mayors. So yan po ang current setup natin at yan naman po ay dahil sa mga batas na ginawa. No? Now, if we will have it for instance in Metro Manila, that would mean masasakupan na niya yung 70 LGUs, which right now, like what you said, may kanya-kanyang autonomy. So, honestly, regarding that proposal, mas mabuti siguro na aralin mabuti, no? Because it will need an act of Congress, if indeed that is a suggestion, no? To undergo a lot of study kasi mababaw talaga yung dynamics ng governance in Metro Manila. But given what we have now, this is something that I can assure everyone, especially those living in Metro Manila. Ang 17 Metro Manila mayors po natin ay nagkakasundo. Maganda po ang aming samahan, maganda ang aming relasyon sa isa't isa. We have very good rapport with the MMDA Chairman Duterte. Kami po personally, both of us, ayos po ang aming samahan. So we really talk about all of these issues and concerns. No? Since COVID-19, ang Metro Manila ay merong isang process. Tandaan po natin, during the time, pag nag-announce tayo, for instance, I remember during the time, merong mga curfew, merong mga lockdown, even though other cities had other policies that they wanted to implement, pag nagkakabotohan kami ay parating unanimous yan. No? At yan ang tungkulin ko, Gretchen, as President of the Metro Manila Council. It is my duty to ensure that Metro Manila will have one voice. And when it comes to flood control, for instance, this is something that we've discussed with Chairman Ortiz, na maggagawa nga ang MMDA at ang DPWH ng isang Metro Manila Drainage Master Plan, which I fully agree to. Dahil hindi pwedeng individually o mga cities lamang ang gumagawa ng sarili nilang Drainage Master Plan because they're connected. Yung drainage system ng San Juan, konektado yan sa Mandaluyong, konektado yan sa Manila, konektado sa Quezon City. So dapat talaga paplano tayo ay as one whole metropolis and not just individually cities when it comes to flood control and drainage systems.
By when can we expect the master plan?
Okay. Iyan po, according to them, ay kinakraft na po nila. Kahit kami po, we're really excited for that. We will continue to meet about it. And ang binanggit ko po kay Chairman Ortiz, talagang dapat yung inputs ng mayors ay talagang makonsider po rito. No? Kasi kami, again, for the information of everyone, Gretchen, wala kaming pontong hawak when it comes to big flood control projects. Yan po ay sa national government. No? Pero ang mga mayors po, mga LGs, ang nag-determine alin sa aming mga barangay, alin sa aming mga kalye, ang dapat improve ang drainage systems, kung saan dapat magtayo ng pumping station.
Correct.
So, right now, yun po ang pulse po namin. Ano? So, we have to live with the current situation because, again, that is the governance framework that we have now in Metro Manila. And that this will change in the future, just in case. Kami naman po, of course, we will adjust But right now, ito po ang paraan ng pamamahala sa Metro Manila. At again, I assure everyone that the 17 mayors of Metro Manila ay kami po ay nagkakaisa para po sa National Capital Region.
Okay, abangan po namin yung master plan na yan, and hopefully we can have you on the show with that master plan and all the other plans for Metro Manila. Maraming salamat po for your time, for joining us this morning. We have San Juan City Mayor and Metro Manila Council President Francis Zamora. Up next, former Senator Trillanes is fueling speculation of a Duterte-Robredo alliance. But how is former Vice President Robredo's camp reacting to the claim? We'll discuss that when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here on One News. Good morning, I'm Gretchen On here on Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Former Senator Sonny Trillanes is accusing former Vice President Lenny Robredo and her allies of shielding former President Duterte from international prosecution. In an interview on Storycon, Trillanes claimed Robredo was opposed to turning Duterte over to the International Criminal Court if she had won the presidency in 2022. He also alleged that Senator Bam Aquino requested him to help delay the ICC's issuance of an arrest warrant. Trillanes believes these actions, along with Robredo's reported silence on Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment, point to an ongoing Robredo-Sara alliance, one that allegedly existed even during the 2022 campaign.
Kaya nga sinasabi ko sa 2028, I'm not inclined to support Lenny because magkaalyado at magkaibigan sila ni Sara Duterte. Palagay ko malalim. And in fact, we have aside dun sa mga sinight ko na historical mga incidents na yan, ito, no, up to now, si Mayor Lenny has yet to say anything about the impeachment trial of Sara Duterte. Alam mo, malakas na boses yan. Si Lenny, pero she's quiet.
Amid these speculations, Robredo's former spokesperson, Attorney Barry Gutierrez, is pushing back. And he joins us this morning to clarify their camp's position. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Attorney Barry.
Good morning, Gretchen. Happy to be here.
Parang natatawa kayo.
First of all, I'm not a spokesperson anymore. So whatever I say is my take on it, not VP Lenny's camp.
Okay, so just to clear that out, ano. Okay, medyo mabibigat po yung mga paratang na ito, ano, galing kay former Senator Trillanes. Isa-isahin po natin. Alam ko nasagot nyo na ito kagabi, pero para lang din to set the context of our conversation, no. So are you
Sure.
categorically denying the statements? First one, that Vice President Lenny Robredo was not for surrendering the former president to the ICC, that they don't believe in the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Okay, first of all, let me say at the outset that I have the utmost respect for Senator Trillanes, and I'm sure this opinion he has a basis for it, and which unfortunately I'm not aware of. I don't know who he has talked to, which has led to him getting this information, which has actually led to him stating this particular position. But that said, on the ICC. My basis is really the official stances taken by the Vice President, the public statements she made during the campaign, the official positions that she took in various interviews leading up to the 2022 election. And many times, from 2021 to 2022, after she had already declared her candidacy for president, she was very clear that she, if elected, she would cooperate with the ICC investigation. And more than that, she would push for the Philippines rejoining the ICC as a full member. More recently, this March, when the arrest of President Duterte took place and he was turned over to the ICC, she issued a statement saying that she believed this was an important first step in achieving justice for the many victims of the drug war. So, this runs very, very clearly in the direction of supporting an ICC rejoining and cooperation with the ICC, contrary to the contention of Senator Trillanes. So, I don't know who he has talked to. I'm sure he has a basis for this, but based on how I have related with the Vice President, what she has said publicly, and what official positions she has taken during the campaign and after, it would seem to be, contradictory.
Pero hindi ho ba totoo na magkaibigan talaga si Vice President Leni at saka si Vice President Sara Duterte? Kasi, I mean, I found an old article from Inquirer back in 2015. Actually, 2015. Our co-anchor found it.
Yeah.
Oo, si Regina. Yeah. Sabi ni Vice President Robredo, magkaibigan kami. Even before, when I come to Davao, I always find time to talk to her. She was mayor when my husband was DILG secretary, so we are friends. And Robredo who had a quick lunch with the younger Duterte in an eatery outside the gate of the Davao Medical School Foundation, and her meeting with the younger Duterte was purely personal and had nothing to do with politics. So, tama po ba na they were really friends?
Yeah, this is December 2015 during the vice presidential campaign. They met in Davao. She issued that particular statement. But here's the thing. Since then, I am not aware of any personal meeting they have had until the one last year when Vice President Sara Duterte dropped by her house during the Peña Francia. What I can say is, in the entire 6 years that Vice President Leni served as VP, there was no meeting. They never talked. And more than that, VP Sara was constantly hitting us, hitting the Vice President, calling her fake VP, linking her with alleged fraud committed during the 2016 election, which fortunately these allegations were trashed by the Supreme Court when they dismissed the electoral protest against her. But my point is, if they were friends in 2015, then the mayor Sara Duterte then had a strange way of showing it in the following 6 years when VP Leni was vice president. So I can't speak to how they are now. I only know that they met last year, and that when they met last year, that was the first time in more than 6 years that they had actually had a conversation. So I'm not privy to the current state of their friendship, but what I can say is that if they were actually friends for those 6 years, certainly didn't show in their interactions with each other.
Well, Senator Trillanes was implying yesterday that VP Robredo is actually not politically naive. And sabi nga niya na parang alam naman niya yung mga galawan niya dito sa politika. Even to say na yung meeting nila ni Vice President she will feign ignorance for deniability, but yun ang naririnig niya from insiders is matagal ng planado yun na mag-meet sila. Is it possible? What do you say? What would you have to say to that?
I mean, this is a subject matter that has been discussed and repeatedly talked about last year, and I've been very, very clear on this point. I talked to Vice President Lenny. She made it very, very clear to me that the visit was sudden. She was informed only a few minutes before that that VP Sara was going to her house. There was no prior arrangement here that they would meet in advance. So, Senator Trillanes has been insisting on this point even last year. So, I'll respect his position, but insofar as the Vice President herself is concerned, VP Lenny has been very, very clear that this was something that happened spur of the moment. It was not planned. It was not about politics. It was simply about being hospitable to a person who decided to visit her in the middle of the most major religious festival in Naga, the Peña Francia that year. And aside from VP Sara, there were other people, politicians, who also dropped by to visit her, and she entertained them all. So, I think it's pretty clear what this was.
Well, of course, this is being talked about in the context of a greater concern, which is the Vice President's silence on the impeachment. Bakit kaya hindi nagsasalita si Vice President tungkol dito?
Well, first of all, let's put it in context. It's not just the impeachment she hasn't been talking about. She hasn't really been talking about national issues or commenting on national issues for the better part of the last 3 years. And when the 2022 elections ended, she made it very, very clear that she would focus on, first, her Angat Buhay NGO, something that she actually spent so much time on in the last 3 years. And then eventually focusing on local concerns in Naga, which eventually led to her running for mayor and now being mayor of Naga City. So it's not something that we should just isolate and say, oh, hindi siya nagsasalita tungkol sa impeachment. Hindi siya nagsa-comment tungkol sa national issues, generally speaking, in the last 3 years. And I think that was a deliberate choice on her part. She wanted to focus on local issues. She wanted to give space for other leaders. Principally Senator Risa Hontiveros, who she passed the baton to as leader of the opposition way back in 2022, to be the one to actually speak on these issues of national concern, while she focuses on Naga and her local issues, which she has consistently pursued over the last few years. So I don't think we should be surprised or that we should single out the impeachment in particular. She has simply not been commenting on national issues after the 2022 elections.
But as we know, in politics, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Is it possible to rekindle that friendship that the two vice presidents have had in 2015 for a potential alignment of interests in 2028? Posible ba yun?
I have not seen any indicator that there is any movement towards that. I mean, as to their personal relationship, whether they will rekindle their relationship as friends, I obviously cannot answer that. That's something personal to VP Lenny. But insofar as politics is concerned, she was very clear when there was a lot of speculation last year that the meeting was supposedly to discuss a possible alliance. She made it very clear that that was not the topic of the conversation in that meeting. It was purely personal. They did not talk about politics. They did not explore any future alliances or cooperation. And since then, that was a year ago, there has been no single indication that was actually the direction, which actually, I suppose, supports the point that VP Lenny was making in the aftermath of that conversation and the speculations that came afterwards. So, as far as from my perspective, from where I'm sitting, I don't see that happening. And I've not seen any indicator that that's the direction that this will be going.
Yeah, well, it seems to be. I mean, Senator Trillanes also airing his frustration over what happened in 2022 na medyo hindi nakapaghanda
Yeah.
ang opposition dahil nga doon sa late announcement ni VP Robredo. At sabi nga niya, hindi na pwedeng mangyari. We've learned our lessons. Hindi naman kailangan public declaration, pero internally, dapat may paghahanda na. So, in terms of that, is the Vice President looking at the possibility or at least having a certain open-mindedness towards a national position in 2028? Would you know of that?
Well, to begin with, I agree completely. I think everybody who was involved in the 2022 campaign, the key takeaway is we should prepare earlier. And I fully support Senator Trillanes when he says this is a conversation that should happen sooner than later. Now, as to the Vice President's intentions, up to now, she has not actually indicated any plans for 2028. She has just been elected Mayor of Naga. She just took office barely a month ago on June 30. So I think her entire focus is really on doing a job as she can as
Correct.
Mayor
Yes,
of Naga.
yes.
She made it very clear before. She gave 6 years of her life to the nation. Now she's going to focus on the needs and the concerns of her own kababayans in Naga. At least for these 3 years. But we don't need to wait for Vice President Leni in this particular case. I mean, there are so many other people in the opposition who are interested in actually starting to plan this early, and I think those conversations can happen if and when the Vice President decides that she wants to be involved. Then I'm sure that space and time can be found for her and her supporters. But in the meantime, this is her focus, and everybody else who wants to already start planning correctly so for 2028, I suppose can proceed.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the mantle for the Vice President to be her spokesperson, at least unofficially, and answering those questions. We will look out for that. Hopefully not a souring of a relationship between the former senator and the former Vice President. Maraming salamat sa iyo for taking our call and answering your questions. We have Attorney Barry Gutierrez joining us this morning.
Anytime, Gretchen. Happy to be here.
When we return, let's talk about the importance of good governance and other pressing matters with Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong. Don't go away. That's right up after a quick break. back. You're watching Morning Matters here on One News. Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong recently made headlines after claiming that some lawmakers receive kickbacks from government projects. His statement comes in the wake of President Bongbong Marcos's directive to investigate alleged anomalies in the implementation of flood control projects across the country. And we are now joined by Mayor Magalong to discuss this issue further and its significance in the broader push for transparency and accountability in government projects. Magandang maga po sa inyo, Mayor. Thank you again for joining us.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning sa ating mga viewers. Thank you for
Mayor,
having me.
alam po namin kayo po ay isa sa mga matatapang na boses pagdating po sa issue na ito ng korupsyon, lalong-lalo na sa mga infrastructure projects. You have alleged that some lawmakers are receiving kickbacks. But Congressman Terry Ridon has actually challenged you to come forward with concrete proof. Him being now the chairman of public accounts, sabi niya para maimbestigahan na po ito finally dahil your word, there's a danger also of it being a blanket allegation.
Well, alam mo, Gretchen, matagal na nangyayari yan, At they keep on, giving a blind eye. They don't want to, admit it. Kumbaga parang it is an convenient truth. Just like having a big elephant in your room but nobody would like to talk about it. Pero ngayon lumabas na because of those, the pronouncement of the president. And then suddenly, nung nag-react ako, bigla naman silang nag-react sa akin. Hindi sila nag-react kay presidente. But nonetheless, sabi ko nga, ipatawag na lang nila ako. So I'm just waiting for them to, send their summons.
So you have actual proof of some contractors and lawmakers involved in this?
Well, that's the reason why, Gretchen, that's the reason why I'm waiting for them to, invite me to the congressional hearing so that I can present our side, and at the same time present pieces of document and pieces of evidence.
Pero yun nga po, pinag-uusapan nga po namin dito ni Congressman Ridon. How do you find evidence? Is it easy to get the paper trail of this? Kasi usually, di ba, parang kaliwaan yan o marami pong hindi accounted for. How do you begin to trace all of those projects?
Alam mo, a good point. Alam mo, Gretchen, I've been into big investigations. Just for example, the investigation in 2013 wherein I was tasked by no less than President Noynoy to conduct an investigation do sa NIA. Basically, we know the framework on how to conduct an investigation. Kaya lang nung nangyari na nung after mga 8 months, almost a year kami nag-iimbestiga. And then finally, I was asked to stop the investigation dahil nga the new NIA management requested na sila na magpatuloy ng investigation. And during that time, lumalabas na doon sa investigation namin na some politicians were already involved in anomalous project. So, ganun din, yung framework na ginawa namin doon, yun din na dapat nilang gawin ngayon. Kaya nga ako nag-volunteer. Kung gusto nila, ako na lang mag-imbestiga. But of course, I need the help of the Philippine National Police and the FBI.
Pero yun nga po, yung involvement ng politicians na yan, how far does it go? From the bidding process all the way down to the actual construction?
Alam mo, Manyan, it is a, kumbaga parang silent partnership. Silent partnership. Ang isa pinakamahirap talaga dyan is how to prove and get the right piece of evidence that would really serve as a prima facie evidence. Like for example, tumanggap sila matapos pumirma ba sila doon sa resibo. Wala namang pipirma sa resibo. Sino ba naman ang stupid na politician na pipirma ng resibo na alam niya na grease money yan o bribe money yan? O kaya yung porsyento yan? Nobody. But there's a way of pinning them down. And that's actually the what I call it, kumbaga, isa yan sa mga trade, how do you call it? Some of the skills, trade skills yan ng investigator.
Oh, pero yun nga, no, I mean, like, would it be, what do you think about the government's probe now on these contractors? Saan po kaya makakaharap ng balakid? For example, doon nga po doon sa isang ano namin, sa isang lugar namin sa probinsya, meron kaming dike doon. At pagbukas mo, makikita mo na hindi pala siya pulido yung pagkakagawa. Ito pala wala pa lang mga bato sa loob. So mga substandard projects na you only learn about years later or when they get damaged. So paano po kaya yung magiging investigasyon to be able to see to hold people accountable? Ano po yung pwedeng habulin sa mga proyekto na nabanggit ng Pangulo?
Well, tama yung observation mo, no? And it's not only happening in your province. It's nationwide. Believe me, Gretchen, it's nationwide. Ako nga ngayon, meron akong picture na sheet pile na 1 meter lang eh. When in fact, ang nilagay doon, 9 meters na sheet pile, ano? Pero lumabas 1 meter lang yung, nung nasira ng itong bagyo, 1 meter lang ang lumbas. At tinanong ko nga yung contractor, is there a way na mapuputo? Sabi niya, imposible sir, mapuputol yan. Imposible. And from there, you can already start investigation. At marami yan. Alam mo, all you have to do is, mamimili ka. Kung meron ka, alam mo, napakadaming information na dumarating ngayon, Gretchen. Napakarami. Just like what happened when we were conducting the NIA investigation. Initially, akala namin sa Agusan Norte lang. Tapos maya-maya, nandyan na yung mga dokumento na dumarating galing sa Bohol, galing sa Region 2, galing sa Pangasinan, galing sa Bulacan. Naku, napakarami. Halos hindi na namin only to find out na we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. Ganito rin ang mangyayari dito sa investigation once it starts. And it will be led by credible people, credible institutions, then definitely maraming mapipin down yan.
Speaking of the evidence that you have at hand, are these projects that you have oversight over in Baguio City?
Well, meron din mga nasa Baguio City, meron din dito sa Cordillera, pero marami rin sa ibang lugar. It's all over the place, all over the country. Kaya nga marami nga tumatawag na sa akin at sending me pieces of documents. I'm having a difficult time consolidating everything dahil unang-una, mayor ako rito, hindi naman ako investigador na, di ba? Hindi naman ako investigador. Yung nga yun nakapagtataka eh. Why is it na mayroong oversight powers ang Kongreso? Hindi ko naman sinasabi na lahat sila, di ba? I think I made a categorical statement that this is not a blanket accusation. I'm just saying that majority of them are actually involved in anomalies. So, ito yung, alam mo, it's all over. At sabi ko nga, they have the oversight. Dapat, nag-launch na sila ng kanilang investigation. Alam naman nila yan. Ang problema nga, sabi ko nga, nagmamaang-maangan lang sila. Alam nila yan. In fact, nag-usap pa nga kami ng isang mayor, a prominent mayor, sabi niya, alam mo mayor, one time I met with my several congressmen. Alam mo, nag-uusap nila na as if I was not there. Sabi ko, what do you mean? Nag-uusap sila tungkol sa kanilang mga porsyento. Hindi ba lang sila nahiya sa akin na nakikinig ako, sabi.
In your city, what has your administration done to be able to prevent or reduce instances of, yun nga po, itong mga ganitong corruption in infrastructure projects? Ano po ang mga pagbabagong inyong ginawa?
Good question, Gretchen. At my level, sa LGU, basta funded ng local government at talagang wala ng corruption dito. And it started with me. Kung ako yung tumanggap ng porsyento, what is my moral ascendancy to demand that my subordinates follow me? Wala, di ba? So, it always starts with the leader. There's no substitute to leadership by example. Pero ang tanong mo siguro ngayon is, paano yung DPWH? Wala po akong control yan. Unang-una, ang DPWH, control ko yan ng mga mambabatas. Sila nga namimili dyan. Ulitin ko, sila naman talaga ang namimili ng district engineer. Sila rin ang namimili ng regional director.
Ang DPWH ho?
Doon pala,
Ang
malalaman mo na kagad. No?
Oo.
Yes, oo. Sila talaga yan, Gretchen, ang namimili dyan. Kung i-deny nila yan, ilang beses ko na sinabi yan. Pag deny man sila dyan, tatawanan lang sila ng mga ibang mga local na politicians because actually it is sabi ko nga sa iyo, it is a sort of a partnership between the lawmakers and the PWH.
So, you agree with the suggestion to ask the DPWH Secretary to go on a leave of absence para pong maimbestigahan po ito na mabuti?
Well, delikadesa lang siguro, Gretchen. Delikadesa lang. Maganda siguro mag-leave of absence siya para ipakita niya talaga na talagang open siya sa ganitong investigation. Dahil nga, ang involved na agency rito, yung DPWH, look at the huge amount that is involved. 1-point-something trillion and then how much goes to corruption. Hindi lang siguro 20%. Isipin mo, may mga projects dyan na almost ang kinukuha ng mga corrupt na politiko at opisyal umaabot ng 60% dahil sila na yung may porsyento na sila pa yung contractor, sila pa yung supplier. Sabi nga ng mga contractor, isipin mo sir, binawasan na nga kami, kinuha na kami ng porsyento, sa kanila pa kami kukuha ng mga supplies namin. Kaya nga talagang katulad yan, yung sheet piles, alam mo ba na per kilo yan? Yung sheet piles na per kilo yan sa market survey niyan, umaabot siya ng mga 34 pesos. Pero ang gagawin ng supplier niyan, yung legitimate supplier, papatungan niya ng mga 5 piso yan. So sabihin natin 39 pesos, 38 pesos, 45 pesos. Pero tingnan mo yung sa detailed unit price analysis o dun sa kontrata, umaabot siya ng mga 70 pesos. Ganun na nga kataas yung din pinato. Per kilo yan, and every sheet pile at 12 meters, that's about 556 kilograms. So, isipin mo na lang kung magkano nakagad ang patong yan. Halos na doble. Tapos, ang isa pa, na doble na nga, dadayain pa nila. Instead na ilulubog nila because the embedment stays sa technical study. 12 meters or 9 meters ang embedment. Ang ilalagay lang nila 3 meters. So, tingnan mo lang yung embankment na yan. It stretches to many hundreds of kilometers. No? Kaya makikita mo talaga yung kalokohan na talaga. Wala nang konsensya.
At yung mga material cost, sino po ang nag-audit po niyan? Ano po nakikita ninyo sa pag-aaral po ninyo na maaaring baguhin dun sa proseso para magkaroon ng mas maayos na checks and balances?
Well, you know, market survey. Dapat open yun sa market survey. So, kailangan talagang vigilant ang tao. Vigilant din ang community. Dapat yung detailed unit price analysis should be transparent, should be published. And the contract should be published. How many times did I request DPWH to provide me a copy of that? Wala. Hindi sila nagbibigay. Binigyan nila ako ng sabi nila sa akin, sir, ito na po yung website. Puntahan mo na lang yung website. Isang linggo na namin binubuksan yung website, wala kami makita dokumento doon, wala kami makita information. That's the reason why to sa rock netting project, I asked NETA to conduct a study.
So just open access data for infrastructure projects would be a big help.
Yes, kailangan yan. Malaking bagay. But it's all about transparency. It's all about open government partnership. Look, DBM, DILG, is now promoting open government partnership. Baguio City is just one of the 4 LGUs in the entire country out of the 1,600 na nag-apply sa open government partnership. We are now a member of that OGP global network. So it clearly stipulates that you have to be transparent, accountable, strong accountability, and strong citizens participation. If they're going to allow that in all agencies of government, especially itong mga involved sa infrastructure projects, including the Department of Health, talagang talagang malaking epekto nito sa natin, sa efficient and effective delivery of services. Talagang ma-address na malaki itong corruption na nangyayari.
Hindi po ba trabaho din ng COA to flag those projects?
Good question, Trechen. Good comment pala. No? Siguro pinakamaganda is tanungin natin ang buwan.
Well, sana nga po mangyari yung hearing na yan, para ito nga po, maganda po mga suggestion nyo. Lalong-lalo na itong pinag-usapan din ni Terry Redon, yung procurement process na simula pa lang parang rigged na at parang tinatanggal. Kumbaga yung specification na hinahanap, talagang sinasakto dun sa kumpanya na gusto nilang manalo. Yun yung isa sa mga parang pwedeng tignan. I guess as a final point, how is Baguio City doing, in the aftermath of the recent cyclones? I mean, if we take a look at the impact of these projects in your city, yun po ba ay nasolusyonan na? I mean, with your good governance reform, or is that out of your control, being this is a national issue?
Well, malaki rin ang damage namin dito. No? We accounted for about 94 landslides. We have about more than 120 trees now na down. Halos umabot na ng mga 16 houses ang na-damage, partially damaged. We have around 11 na totally damaged. Malaki rin ang damage dito sa amin. We're still waiting for the support coming from the national government. Pero yung DSWD naman, mabilis naman ang action sa amin. And we're hoping sana na doon sa mga sinabit namin na mga damage na infrastruktura namin, yung substantial funding coming from the national government. So right now, by the way, I just would like to react doon sa binanggit ni Congressman Ridon na sa umpisa pa lang, rig na yung bidding. Totoo naman yan, bakit ngayon lang? Noong pa nila alam yan. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, it is an inconvenience sa kanila. Pero wala. Why only now? Why only now?
Hindi naman po kayo na pag-iinitan. I mean, alam po natin sa Baguio City, kayo po ay okay po dyan. Pero on a national level, getting resources your way, given that you voiced out in this issue, hindi naman po kayo na pag-iinitan?
Hirap ako makakuha ng pondo. Believe me. Mabuti na lang. Nakakatulong sa akin yung ibang mga secretary at senators. Pero mahirap talaga makakuha ng pondo.
Well,
it's something that I have to deal with. It's something that I have to deal with.
Pero kailangan po namin kayo. Kailangan po namin ang boses ninyo.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Sana po ito ay magtuloy-tuloy na. Hopefully we finally have the momentum here with the President himself declaring a crackdown on these contractors, and hopefully it pays off in the long run and we get to change things in our system. Yan naman po ang ating pangarap. In the meantime, maraming salamat po for your time today. We know you're very busy. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Matters. We have Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong. Senator Risa Ontiveros has raised alarm over the government service insurance system's alleged investments in questionable ventures, including over 1 billion pesos placed in online gambling. Ontiveros questioned why GSIS would invest public employees' funds in gambling, calling it both unethical and irresponsible. She said that the alleged investment has resulted in massive losses. Citing the 2023 Commission on Audit report, Ontiveros said the GSIS also poured funds into 3 other firms with poor track records, reportedly losing more than 250 million pesos. Ontiveros warned that such decisions could jeopardize the pensions of GSIS members. She called on the Senate to take action, including possibly amending the GSIS Act.
In the first place, what was GSIS thinking? Investing funds in online gambling. Tayo nga po, mga kasamang nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, hindi pwedeng tumuntong sa casino. Lalo na, hindi pwedeng magsugal doon. Kaya, bakit ang GSIS naman, todo taya at ginawang puhunan ang pera ng public employee sa sugalan?
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.